representation or renew your existing leave to remain? Do you require advice or representation regarding a personal injury or criminal matter? If the answer is yes, then you do not need to look any further. Aduku Solicitors is here to provide you with all the expert legal advice and representation you require.
Be it immigration, criminal law, appeal against conviction or appeal against sentence, family law, personal injury, civil litigation, employment law or housing law. Aduku Solicitors is your trusted one-stop legal services provider with expert solicitors and caseworkers on standby to assist. Our police station emergency number is 07792 459 339. You can also call Aduku Solicitors on 0207 183 1479. You can locate Aduku Solicitors at 662 Old Kent Road, London, SE15 1JF.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Welcome to Africa Speaks today. My name is Stephen Malindra, and I do hope that you all, as always, are having a wonderful time. Now, what have I got in today's program? Ambazonia, a new nation soon to emerge from Cameroon, is one of the topics is the topic of today's program. Now, what does this mean? If you have not heard of the name Ambazonia, I got that right, then you need to get used to it, and soon it could soon be a new nation if all goes well in the nearby future. Now, like Southern Sudan, the Ambazonia people have been fighting for independence from Cameroon for decades, although there is still an ongoing mediation between the parties. A lot has been going on this region of West Africa that the world and Africa are waking up to, with the Ambazonia already having a government in exile and a liberation force on the ground. Then Africa and the world have to listen and accept their demands of independence from Cameroon. Now, with me in the studio today is Mrs. Marita Jomi, a pharmacist and a mother of four who has replaced Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako as the first female president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Greetings. Thank you for having me here, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, there is a lot. I was privileged to have met Dr. Sako, obviously. And I was privileged to have been around when you're doing the
cultural festival.
The cultural festival.
The UK cultural festival, yeah, back in 2019.
Exactly.
That's right.
Fundraising, everything. It was wonderful. And I was saying, wow, I even attended the demonstration.
That's right, you did.
The demonstrations, which was from Parliament Square to the Commonwealth. Yeah.
Yes.
Everything was wonderful. The beautiful people, the women in their cultural attire, just like you. It was really, really wonderful. But then there's the other side of it about the struggle that Africa doesn't know about. Could you tell us something about the struggle? How far has it gone now, and where's the success now that you are in charge? The other time, when I first met you were not in charge.
At that time I was, I was coordinating the UK community. Yes, I was working with the UK community and the European Ambazonian communities. Yeah. So, well, a lot has changed.
Of course,
things have moved on a lot from the last time that we were together.
And the big surprise of the change, the shift, especially the change of power, the power shift is one of the biggest surprises for me.
Yeah.
The power shift of suddenly inside, there's a lot of that been going on. I mean, a lot of people probably want to know that. What is really going on inside Ambazonia?
Well, inside Ambazonia, first of all, we need to tell the people where Ambazonia is, because they might not know where Ambazonia is.
Southern Cameroon.
Ambazonia is southern Cameroon. It shares boundaries with Nigeria, French Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and so we can say that southern Cameroon's Ambazonia is in the Gulf of Guinea. So you can already...
you can add on, it used to be Nigerian. It used to be part of Nigeria.
That's right.
Yeah. Then it was given back to Cameroon.
We had the choice to remain with Nigeria. Well, our forefathers actually walked out of the Enugu State Assembly, and
sorry about that. Yeah.
Yes. So during 1961, where we had the plebiscite, as you know, in fact, let's just start from the beginning. Why do we have this problem that we have at the moment?
Okay.
We have this problem because of a failed decolonization process, which stems back all the way to the 1960s, where African countries were being granted their independence. So, as you may recall, Nigeria was given its independence on the 1st of January 1960, and French Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, also got its independence in 1960. However, when it came to southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, our country, to be granted independence, there was a very fake process that took place, a real detriment to us, to Ambazonians, because we were only given the choice to gain independence by joining Nigeria, which had already gained its independence a year ago, or by joining French Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, with that plebiscite that was not very good for our people. I mean, we should have been given outright independence back in 1961.
But the decision was not made by the British or the French.
No,
it was made by the people of that region to remain part of southern Cameroon. To
join French
Cameroon,
La République du Cameroon. But the question on that ballot paper was not the right question. It's not acceptable. It was a fallacy. And the fact is that the process of gaining that full decolonization and the independence didn't even get fulfilled. Back in 1961, it was supposed to be a federal Republic of Cameroon, a federated two-state federation at the time. As you may recall from your research, the name got later changed back to La République du Cameroon, thereby the annexation and assimilation of our country taking place, leading to the marginalization which a lot of our forefathers spoke up about. And well, it didn't go very well. The tensions reached its peak in 2016, as you will know, and the struggle, as we know it, became violent in 2017 when the peaceful protests, which were being carried out by the lawyers and the teachers, to requesting the Cameroon government to address the root causes, the marginalization that had gone now beyond marginalization. The escalation of the crisis was because the Cameroon government, instead of responding positively to address the issues that had been raised by the lawyers and the teachers, they instead responded with violence. They mocked at the lawyers, they mocked at the teachers. The whole system was just a farce. So the erosion of our cultural identity was the outcry, the initial outcry. The fact that the school kids were not being taught properly in our region. The system, the government, the Cameroon government system of sending French teachers to the English region, in our region, which at the time they would have called the Anglophone region, but it's the English-speaking part, southern Cameroons, meant that our students were not getting the best education. Whereas before 1961, we had the best institutes, we had the best of everything, infrastructure, hospitals, everything. But over the years, that got eroded, and that was the cry of our people.
But right now, if we come back to the present, because we're in the past now of what really happened and what has been the main cause of what is going on right now, in the sense that because one area has been overlooked. So I look at this similarly to what happened in Sudan, with Southern Sudan and Northern Sudan. The whole issue of one area being given most of the resource, given well looked after, and the other one is not. One area is English and the other one is they speak English in the south and they speak French in the north. So there is that sort of division which has caused most of this tension. Now, someone listening to us may want to know, seeing us may want to know the root causes of this and where the whole Ambazonia is going. Because now, with the negotiations at the Commonwealth, what took place in Belgium as well, there is a lot going on that people out there really want to know. How is this going to end? Is there success in the air somewhere? It
has to end by us getting our independence. There's no two ways about it.
How about Africa Union? Is it because I can see the British getting involved? When the demonstration took place,
they're not getting involved as much as we would like them to get involved at the moment.
They are looking at it as an African problem rather than.
But the African Union is not proactive enough, so they need to actually step up. The African Union has not done enough to preempt the killing that's taking place in my country.
Maybe you're not convincing the African Union. You're not convincing enough.
You think?
African Union. Because when the Sudanese issue happened, the African Union, and we look at the issue now in Ethiopia, they are coming in and they're saying, hey, listen, gentlemen, this is the time when you really need to talk. Maybe somewhere along the way, you're president of the union now here. How are you?
Of the interim government.
Interim government.
Yes.
How do you see, what are the main objectives that you're going to cover now to make sure that something happens in terms of maybe negotiations or maybe...
Well, there are already quite a lot of things that are happening, but we need them to happen at an accelerated rate.
Okay.
Our liberation struggle is on many fronts. We are looking at it in terms of diplomacy and advocacy. So that's been happening since 2016. Even before 2016, before all of this escalated, we have people that had been advocating for the independence of Southern Cameroon, but not to the same extent that we see today. In terms of, but we are aware that freedom needs to be fought for, it needs to be seized. So the other element is the convincing power on the ground, because La République du Cameroon, French Cameroon, has had all these sophisticated weapons that they're using on our people, the innocent civilians being killed, and our children, our boys, our young women had nothing to defend themselves with. So they had to resort in there were some at the start.
Some kind of defense,
some level of self-defense, because women were being raped in front of their children, men were being shot at, killed, arrested, mass arrests. It was a terrible situation. You had instances where men will sleep at the front of their house with a cutlass, a machete, because that's the only thing that they had to defend their families. Do you understand? So in terms of course, it's a genocidal war. That's what it is. It's not just it's not a civil war as some people might want to lead others to believe. It's a genocidal war. The Cameroon government is killing. They are exterminating our people. Deliberate extermination of Southern Cameroonians. And it's not just about a language. It's not a language issue. It is about them claiming the resources in Ambazonia. Earlier on you mentioned the example with South Sudan, where one side gets the resources or they get the development. The alarming thing is Southern Cameroon has the wealth, it has all the resources, the crude oil, diamonds, everything, agriculture, everything is there. But if you look at the state of our infrastructure, it's diabolical. The roads are non-existent. Hospitals have deteriorated to a state that you will not you would not want to send your family members there if they're not feeling well.
On the 28th of May, 2019, more than 10,000 Ambazonians, political organizations met in Brussels and signed a declaration. I don't know whether that declaration is still standing today, because I remember when that issue came, it was part of what was discussed at the Commonwealth here during the demonstration. Is there anything, because now there were quite a number of organizations that appeared.
It was not a declaration. It was an agreement. It
was an agreement.
Yes, it was an agreement by the group of Ambazonians, the different groups that came together. There were about 10 at the time. I wasn't in the leadership position at that time, even though I was coordinating Europe. So I wasn't there to give you all the details, but it was an agreement. Basically, the agreement that they came to was that they wanted a team of Ambazonians to come together to put together a package, an acceptable package for all Ambazonians that would be used as a basis for the negotiated settlement when the Cameroon government comes to the negotiation table in the presence of a third party. So that's what it was for. So that Team ACT, the Ambazonian coalition team, their objective was to bring Ambazonians from different fractions, different groups together so that they could start working on the terms of negotiation.
Is that working still there? Because Sudan had something similar. And eventually, of course, the Sudanese government had to give up because a number of collusion, once that collusion took place, they saw the force, they saw the outside. Because when outsiders see how united you are, then that, if you're united, people will support you no matter what, because
that's
you have a force. Now, is that pact still standing? Because okay, it wasn't a declaration, but it was some kind of understanding. Is that understanding still standing with all these 10 organizations?
Well, the Team ACT is still existing. They're still working hard, especially on advocacy and diplomacy. In Team ACT at the moment there are 8 groups, 8 groups, organizations, entities, including the interim government which I lead. So we've been working on different aspects to support the liberation struggle. And like I said, advocacy and diplomacy are part of the package, right? But what needs to go with that is the firepower on the ground. So there are 2 military wings which are part of the Team ACT. And they are focused on making sure that the Ambazonian Restoration Forces who are defending the civilians are adequately empowered to fight off the enemy, La République du Cameroon.
Funding is a major issue in most of these, because what leads to success is if you really have enough in your tank that can help you run somewhere. Because if you don't have anything in your tank, something goes wrong somewhere and your tank runs on empty, and that's the end of whatever you're doing.
That's so good.
I remember when we were doing the fundraising as well on that ceremony, and there was a lot that was going on, discussions at the time with Dr. Samuel, and all that was going on with whoever is going to help. I know it's difficult sometimes to talk about that on air here, but it's something, if you're solid enough, because success sometimes comes with that. Is there a way we can learn about anything, how this whole thing can be funded? Because
the liberation struggle has 2 aspects to it. As you know, we have more than 1.5 million refugees in Nigeria who traverse the forest. Sometimes they even take really risky journey by boat to get to Nigeria to seek refuge there, and other surrounding African countries, of course. And some of them are internally displaced within Cameroon and southern Cameroon. So we have the humanitarian aspect that we need to look at, right? So we need humanitarian assistance, and you are aware that we have not had formalized education for more than 5 years. So those children in the refugee camps, even those that are internally displaced, they need support with acquiring school materials. Some of them don't even have uniforms, shoes, just the basics that we take for granted here. So in terms of the humanitarian aspect, we definitely need support from third parties, from any African countries, anyone that is willing to support needs to help us, because the humanitarian crisis is deteriorating every passing month. The killings continue. Villages, more than 400 villages have been burnt down. Towns and villages have been burnt down.
But
so
the whole point I'm trying to find out here is
but the second part of your question, I'm coming to it.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
So for the second part, like I said, civilians need to be defended. And defending, I told you earlier on that some young men were just using their machetes, sleeping at the front of the door with their machetes to try and defend, to protect their families and defend their homes. So we can't, that does not compete with the artillery that La République du Cameroon military uses to execute that war on them. So the funding for military support, that is sought. So if there are any African countries or anyone that wants to support those boys to protect their families, because self-defense is a God-given right, and they have every right to defend themselves. They've been killed like chickens for how many years? So that funding is needed. We haven't, we've not had any African country or body,
because somewhere along the way,
go on.
Somewhere along the way, people are seeing the suffering. Somebody watching us could say, okay, I wish I could help in one way or another. And any of the organizations that get it, some people may want to prefer to help in terms of, as you're saying, internally displaced people. Aid can be given in terms of what food or clothes or anything like that. But at the same time, aids can also be given in terms of maybe big organizations saying, we're giving you weapons, or we're giving you this to defend yourself. That's how I'm looking at it. If any of that, you need to approach bigger organizations. You need to approach your organization in order to get that.
Yeah, we do. We do, definitely. There's no lie about it. We would welcome any of that kind of support from any organization that is willing to support us in that way. Because the level at which innocent civilians are being killed, including babies, innocent babies, some that were even trying to go to school. It's alarming, it's shocking. Had it been that this was happening in the Western world, it would be on the news every single day. So it's
now you've held a number of positions within the organization. I can see, of course, Deputy Secretary of State for the Department of Education, UK coordinator, and so on. And now, Vice President at some point of the organization. The role of women now is another major issue. Are we looking at women, because the Sudan war has seen the role of women changing, not just on the front line, but also in the negotiation now. And you are here, you're sitting in one of the best seats, or I should say the leading seats in the organization. How do you see the role of women generally? Because you have a highly educated class of women out there.
We do.
What role are they playing in this whole thing? Because if they take part within the negotiations, maybe there could be a lot of persuasion. The way it's happening in Ethiopia right now, because so many Ethiopian women are taking part in this. How is the historically, women have played a very important role in terms of peace. Keeping peace in the nations. Women naturally are nation builders anyway, and peace. But are they there?
seekers.
This is the thing.
We do.
When I was at the organization the last time I was there, most of the leading positions were held by men. And
at the time,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It was a big surprise for me to see you in the leading position now. Is there a shift within this power structure that is making sure that I think somewhere within our shift
there has been we recognized quite early on that the Ambazonia that we're building needs to be an Ambazonia that empowers women.
Okay.
So even when the cabinet was being reshuffled, after we had that meeting, there was the need for women to be in positions of leadership, which is where I came in as the Deputy Secretary of State for the Department of Education. We have women in different positions in terms of, we have a department, a directorate for women's services.
Okay.
For example, within our government structures, we recognize that from the start. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware, in my cabinet, my Secretary of State for the Department of Self-Defense and Security was female.
Okay.
We have women in those different positions because they bring they bring something quite unique to the table in terms of safeguarding the interest. I mean, really thinking about the interest of the people, their children, because being a mother, you would always want to do your best to protect the children, the interest of the children, the suffering masses. So women have always, and they continue even right now in Team Act, for example. There are women involved in Team Act. Women in very intelligent, powerful women. Dr. Emma Ozon, for example, plays a very powerful role within Team Act. The women, I don't know if you've heard about the Takumbungs. So that's the Southern Cameroonian women that have come together. I say they, because I have been part of the protest with them, even in Germany. If you search it up, doing advocacy for the release of our former leaders who, as you know, still are imprisoned in the Cameroon dungeons. They were abducted in Nigeria.
In Nigeria?
Yes. And taken back to Cameroon, and they've been in prison since then. So women have, and they continue to. There are the Takumbanks are still there. There are women organizations within Ambazonia who are continuously fundraising, carrying out advocacy, looking at the needs of the victims, the different clusters of the genocidal war.
There is something that the rest of Africa probably that hasn't known properly or hasn't grown up with, and that is the format in which the Ambazonians are selling themselves to the rest of Africa. Because this is where something, if Africa sees it and the West sees it, and then we are saying, I think enough is enough, we need to get involved in this. What kind of methods have you guys got in terms of how you sell yourself, in terms of, hey, this is what we want help, we want this, we want that? Because if we don't go, the reason I'm saying that is I've been to a number of African organizations here, and some of them don't even know what Ambazonia is. And some of them said, well, maybe we've heard of them, but you haven't sold the organization very well to the rest of Africa. We know the problems that are going through, but the more we get to know them, maybe the more we'll help. What terms have you got in terms of pushing this to the rest of Africa and the rest of the world? Because if you sell it to the rest of the world, then you have a bigger chance of even the UN stepping in.
Well, the UN is fully aware of what's happening. We are in communications with the UN. I hear what you're saying, though, because there are, even here in the UK, even though we talk a lot amongst ourselves, Ambazonians, we realized back in 2019, 2020 that a lot of the talk was amongst ourselves, and we needed to diversify our audience. And so even back in 2018, what we had decided to do, what we saw necessary, was to have mobilization within the different countries in the diaspora, which is where we organized ourselves and coordinated our efforts like we did in the UK. So similar things happened in Europe, in the different regions in America. So those are the country coordinators, country and regional coordinators. So but I have to be honest with you, we haven't done enough. Our messages are not going through to the international community enough, which is why it's quite a good relief that we are here today for this interview.
But the French in France were a bigger voice that can even go to the president of France, a bigger voice, because the French would have acted. Okay, fine. The whole point is the French may lose part of southern Cameroon, but if the people get to the streets tomorrow,
the civilians
in Paris, and start forcing, they could force something out. I mean, the way the South Africans sold the Mandela issue when Mandela was in prison, the rest of the world were saying, look, this man has got to go free. It went into the economical structure of South Africa. In the end, the South Africans had no choice, because economically, the government has started getting weaker. The government of South Africa, because of Mandela, because of the way the entire
that they were being perceived. Yes.
So similarly, Cameroonian, southern Cameroon, Ambazonia could do something similar, and the economy of the rest of Cameroon could go into something where it say, hey, the rest of the world will be saying, why are we buying this when you are busy killing kids down there? You see my point?
Well, the selling point is the point that you have raised. I can tell you that we have done all of those things.
You've done that.
We have, even in France, there have been protests. There have been protests in the different countries. We have even back in southern Cameroon, there have been the civilians have boycotted French products. There have been economic sabotage being meted on French Cameroon. But the truth here is this, Steve. The world knows what the problems are, but they choose not to speak openly or to televise it and give it the attention that it needs.
No, I think it's not in their eyes. It's not, I mean, if something comes to me constantly, every day, at my desk, as I sit on my desk, there's something there at my desk that is telling me about something. At some point or another, I'll say, hang on a minute, let me have a look at this. What is it? You see the point? That's what I was saying. Look, maybe because ever since was it 2019 when I attended that, I don't know whether you had another raising, another meeting or something. You need constantly
we have
these kind of meetings.
Oh yes, we do. We've had
to Africa, because I'm interviewing Africans every day, from us, and then when the question comes, South African, okay, maybe I've heard of it, maybe not. So if you can sell it to us as Africans, then you can sell it to the others, and the struggle. To me, that's my belief.
No, you're absolutely right, because charity begins at home.
Exactly.
We need more Africans be knowledgeable about the plight of southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians.
And then you need to cut the divisions among you as well. You've got divisions among you.
We need a greater sense of unity of purpose.
Unity is also very important, because without unity, I don't know.
It becomes very challenging. You're right. That's why Team Act is in existence. Team Act, within Team Act, like I said, we have 8 movements within that, and we sit together, have discussions, and we discuss what to do for the liberation struggle. So there is that degree of unity, and increasingly all the different leaders are seeing the need to come together for the benefit of Ambazonia. So Ambazonians worldwide are fast realizing that all these divisions, factions are of no benefit to us whatsoever, and they're calling on all the leaders, and I would also join them to call on all leaders to actually put their egos aside and start thinking about the people who are bearing the brunt of this war, which are the refugees in the refugee camps, the prisoners.
Another thing which you probably haven't worked on is if most southern, or I should say Ambazonians, are in the south, try to take the war to the north, move into the French-speaking countries. Maybe if instead of fighting within the southern region, and you say, hang on a minute, let's go into your areas. This is what helps Sudan. as soon as the Sudanese realized that their own people have started having problems with the rebels in the south, because they couldn't get rid of them, they couldn't keep them in the south. They are all Sudanese. You have the same ideas. You can walk in and walk out. So if you are thinking the war is in the south, then suddenly the war is at your front. Tomorrow they wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm only making a suggestion here. I'm not saying go in and start killing northern Cameroonians. All I'm saying, if you disrupt certain things somewhere along the way, they will think twice about it.
It's a plausible line of thought.
It's not something that has been thought about, and it's not being done. Because, listen, I attended that conference. I'm speaking with confidence, and I saw what was going on there. And I have to say, okay, I like the songs, I like the momentum, I like the drive. But then at the end of the day, what has it achieved? That is the point.
So what you're saying is correct. A lot of Ambazonians are thinking along those lines as well. What is much needed now are the resources.
Okay.
So Ambazonians are working hard, and we are also seeking for third parties to sponsor us.
The thing is I think Ambazonians are too religious. Maybe that's the
right.
It's just
believe me, over the years, the way that the Cameroon military have been killing our people, you have a lot of extremists. There are people who are radicalized from seeing newborn babies being killed, innocent children being killed. So I think when it comes to this, Ambazonians are not that religious. If
they are not, because
we cannot be religious.
The reason why I say that, because
when our people are being killed every day mercilessly.
The reason I say that is because when Dr. Samuel Iko was president, I read in one of his books, and one of the things that he was looking at, religion was one of the areas he looked at and said, look, maybe this is where a sign of weakness is, in terms of, because if we put that aside and we look at the struggle itself, somewhere along the way, maybe the expectation was too much with his own people, in terms of how they believe that the whole idea of going to fight, or maybe it's a weakness or something like that, that he foresaw. But he looked at religion from, there's a whole chapter in his book which covers that.
I have got the book. We helped to sell the book at that time.
I remember.
So yes, well, that was just his book. I don't think that was
belief anyway.
That's his own book and his belief. But I know that the majority of Ambazonians at the beginning thought that we could just achieve our independence through diplomacy and advocacy, because we thought that the Cameroon government and the international community were just going to come together and negotiate.
It's not
so we have learned the hard way, to be honest with you. We've learned the hard way, and so we know that we have to seize our freedom. We have to take it by force. That's not a discussion anymore. Everybody knows that.
Okay, what plans have you got now in terms of continuing this struggle? What plans in terms of any presidents to see, any other African nations, or any British diplomats? I know here the talks are ongoing. The European Union is another big
through our diplomatic efforts, we've been speaking with members of the UK Parliament. I'm not sure if you are aware that there's an early day motion that has been raised in Parliament. So anyone that wants to support, especially if you're in the UK, there's an early day motion, 1143, I believe, on Southern Cameroons, raised by MP Claudia Webb, my MP. So, in fact, we spoke just 2 days ago, and what we need is all Ambazonians, even non-Ambazonians. This is where non-Ambazonians can also come in. all that we need, if you really want to help us, is to contact your member of parliament and tell them that you would like them to support the early day motion on Southern Cameroon. We need a lot of MPs signing up on that, so that the UK government can be forced to take the next step. And then in terms of Europe, the European Union is fully aware. We have had some contact with diplomats in.
You have plans to go there to Brussels? Yes, and then have sit down with them and say, listen, this is where I think either you get off the boat or remain on the boat. You have plans to do that?
We do have plans. We were supposed to actually have a meeting over the summer holiday, but it didn't work. We're trying to reschedule the meeting to go to Switzerland. Actually, we are to meet with. We'll get an update in the coming days. Updates with we've been in talks with HD. So HD, the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, are have been mandated by the Swiss government to.
They were the one in 2019.
They did arrive. They came to London in 2019. That's correct. So the talks continue with them, with Team Act as well, to try and speed up the process. Ambazonia is ready. We are ready to meet La République du Cameroun at the negotiation table. We are ready to negotiate our settlement. But the Biya regime, they're dragging their feet. They have made some efforts, but they're making those efforts indirectly. They are trying to contact certain members of Team Act, groups of Team Act, within Team Act, indirectly having talks with them instead of meeting together with that third party with HD.
A man has already called you a terrorist. How is he going to sit down with you when he already knows you're a terrorist? He's called you a terrorist, and you're trying to sit down with him. He's already said publicly that this is not something that is up for discussion, unless pressure is put on him from outside sources or something like that.
Well, I think the world, even Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, can bear witness to all of us that we are not terrorists. In fact, it's a Cameroon military, the Cameroon regime led by Paul Biya, who are the terrorists, who have annexed our territory and violating the international laws and causing huge human rights abuses. And the evidence is there. It's been picked up even on satellite. So they have no legs to stand on calling us terrorists. They are terrorizing us, and they need to leave our territory.
Well, go ahead.
And of course, like I said earlier on, we have the right to defend ourselves. The bottom line is that the failed UN decolonization process need to be looked into again. We need to address the root causes, and Southern Cameroons need to be granted its independence. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't get our independence. Back then in the 1960, 1961, the overwhelming majority of the UN countries signed up for it. They were in agreement for it. So the United Kingdom, France, and the allies need to actually start doing the right thing.
The Nigerian front,
right?
Some Cameroonians have suggested that, of saying, look, since this part was a part of Nigeria and at independence, we've given it back to Cameroon. Can we use the Nigerian angle? Because then Nigeria can probably grant us independence. If Nigeria comes in and force and said, look, these are part of this territory used to be part of us. Can we, that angle of going to Nigeria and forcing the Nigerians? Because as a nation, I think, as big as it is, it can easily force President Paul Biya to...
Nigeria has its own internal issues. You know about the uprising in Biafra region. And just for the records, the Bakassi belongs to Southern Cameroon. That's our territory. So when you talk about Nigeria, I just want it for the records that Bakassi is our territory. Because what you're suggesting, I can see a situation where the Nigerian government might think that they will have legitimacy over the Bakassi Peninsula, which belongs to Southern Cameroon.
No, the reason I'm saying that, it could be a way of helping in enforcing maybe the president there to come at the table.
That would have been a good thing, Steve.
Or even saying, look, the French Cameroon to come and say, gentlemen, the Nigerians might come in with force and the French might not even help us. I think it's high time we listen and talk, because you need something to force them to say, to be, to agree to terms, and if there's nothing forcing them, I don't really see this.
Do you? I mean, whilst we're grateful,
I'm not putting you down.
No. I understand where I understand where you're coming from. Whilst we appreciate the Nigerian government, the governors, for hosting our refugees in the different camps across Cross River and all the different states. Exactly.
In Nigeria,
right. But I want to remind you that for the previous leadership to be abducted in Nigeria, there needed to have been some level of conspiracy with the Cameroon government and the Nigerian government for all of them to be abducted and taken to Cameroon.
Okay.
So
that could have.
There are some issues of trust there somehow.
The issue of trust
from Ambazonians.
That is probably with one particular Nigerian government, because that happened when Buhari wasn't in power. Someone else was in power. So we are looking at a different person walking in. The things could change as we go along.
The lines of negotiations are always open, of course.
We're coming towards the end of the program, and coming to the end of the program. Any last wish you can?
Well, I want all Ambazonians to know that we need to fight this war together to liberate our country, and we need friends of British Southern Cameroons, friends from African countries, to continue to spread the word and talk about the plight of Ambazonians, so that the world can rise up to do something about it, the same way that they've done with Ukraine. And lastly, please sign up. Call your MPs to sign up the early day motion if you're in the UK. Thank you very much.
You heard it from the horse's mouth, as they normally say. I just want to say thank you very much for being with us in today's Africa Speaks, and I hope we'll be together again for another edition of Africa Speaks. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you for having me.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed. At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
My name is Kofi Adoko. I'm a principal solicitor at Adoko Solicitors. I am also a duty solicitor. Anytime a person is arrested and taken to a police station, or if the police invite you to the police station for a voluntary interview, you have a right to free independent legal advice. Adoko Solicitors is authorized to provide free independent legal advice at police stations in England and Wales. So anytime you're taken to the police station, remember
to say that your solicitors are advocacy solicitors.
Are you in the UK and in need of immigration help? Do you require expert legal representation to regularise your stay or renew your existing leave to remain? Do you require advice or representation